I got pregnant at the same time as the mistress. My future mother-in-law said that whoever gave birth to a boy would be married into the family. Later, I gave birth to a pair of twins, a boy and a girl, but I had nothing to do with their family anymore, and when the mistress's child was born, it scared the whole family silly. I was pregnant. As soon as my boyfriend found out, he took me to his home immediately, saying that we needed to discuss the matter of getting married. Along the way, both of us were looking forward to a wonderful future. Until we arrived at his home. The one who opened the door was a young girl with a bright smile on her face. "Brother Leo, you're back?" Her expression froze slightly when she saw me, but she quickly regained her composure and skillfully took out a pair of slippers from the cabinet. "Why didn't you call ahead before coming back? There's no food prepared at home." "Uncle, Auntie, Brother Leo is back." Leo's father and mother came out immediately when they heard the commotion. They fussed over Leo for a while, completely ignoring me as if I were invisible. Although I had known for a long time that his parents didn't like me because I was from out of town and couldn't bring much help to Leo's career. But being ignored like this on my first visit to their home still made me feel a bit sad. We had known each other for 7 years and been in a relationship for 5 years. In order to get the recognition of his parents and to stand side by side with Leo, I had worked extremely hard at my job. Now I was already a department manager, and my salary was much higher than Leo's. Recently, I had even received an offer from DL Group, which was the big company that Leo had always been longing to work for. Jocelyn, I don't know why she is here either. Fortunately, Leo had been holding my hand all the time. As soon as we sat down, he was eager to explain. "You know, our family has always been very close to Tina's family. Tina must have come to visit my parents." Tina, I knew this name. She was the suitable candidate for daughter-in-law in the eyes of Leo's parents, and Leo's blind date. Leo had once had a meal with her behind my back. When I found out, I had a huge fight with him and mentioned breaking up for the first time. I still remembered that Leo had been hugging me and crying at that time. He refused to break up no matter what. He said that he was forced by his parents and that meeting Tina was just to show his attitude that he had a girlfriend and was going to get married, and that his parents' wishes didn't represent his. I believed him at that time. But now, looking at Tina who was helping in the kitchen, I couldn't help but fall into deep thought. She was chatting and laughing with Leo's mother, just like a pair of mother-in-law and daughter-in-law with a very good relationship. Before long, the dishes were on the table. "Mom, Dad, I have something to tell you." Leo glanced at me and summoned up the courage to speak. "Jocelyn and I have decided." "Don't say it yet. Your mother has something to announce." Leo's father interrupted him. "What is it?" Leo's mother cleared her throat and glanced at Tina again. Tina blushed shyly and lowered her head. "Tina is pregnant," Leo's mother said, and then pretended to glare at Leo angrily. "Leo, such a big thing, why didn't you tell us?" "What do you mean?" Leo was a bit confused. "Does her pregnancy have anything to do with our family?" "Brother Leo," Tina stood up, her cheeks slightly red, "last time when I sent you home. Didn't I tell you not to mention this?" Leo interrupted her angrily and then suddenly realized, "You mean that time?" "Impossible, how could it be?" "You?" He suddenly looked at me, as if he had just realized my existence. "Jocelyn, listen to me." He grabbed my arm. "Jocelyn, it's not what you think. Listen to me explain. That time was an accident. Just an accident." I looked at him, and then at Leo's parents. Thinking of how I had been treated like an invisible person since I stepped into this house, my eyes couldn't help but turn colder and colder. Leo's voice became lower and lower. "Jocelyn, believe me. You are the only one in my heart. Jocelyn, don't look at me like that. I'm scared, Jocelyn." Leo's father interrupted him angrily. "Are you still a man? You're being so timid in front of a woman. Now Tina is pregnant. You should care more about her." Leo's mother also gave me a disdainful look. I knew that people from out of town can't be relied on. Except for having a seductive face, they are nothing, bewitching my son like this. Looking at her face, I suddenly felt a wave of nausea in my stomach. I couldn't help but lean over and retch. Jocelyn, are you okay? Jocelyn. Leo patted my back while handing me a cup of warm boiled water. Rinse your mouth. You'll feel better after rinsing your mouth. Don't touch me. I waved his hand away. The water glass in his hand fell to the ground and shattered into pieces. Leo, it's over between us. I heard my own voice. Fortunately, I didn't lose my composure too much. After saying that, I turned around, picked up my bag and was about to leave. No, Jocelyn, listen to me explain. It's not what you think. Leo held onto my hand tightly. Let her go. Leo's mother stood up. She's making a scene on her first visit to our home. What is she? She hasn't even entered the Leo family's door yet. Mom, stop it. Leo looked at his mother with pleading eyes. Jocelyn. She's also pregnant. The expression on Leo's mother's face gradually froze. You? Leo, are you kidding? Leo took out the pregnancy test report from his pocket. This is the test we just had. Jocelyn is pregnant. We came here today to discuss the wedding. Mom, I like Jocelyn. I want to marry her. Leo's tone was firm, and he was still holding on to me tightly. Damn it. Leo's father stood up and slapped him in the face. You want to marry her? What about Tina? She's a young girl, and she's pregnant with your child. How can you treat her like that? How could you hit our son? Leo's mother looked distressed and then glanced at me. Since you're also pregnant, why don't you sit down and let's have a good talk? This was the first time Leo's mother had spoken to me. We had met before, but she had never looked at me directly. I still remember the contempt that showed on her face when she saw me for the first time. She said, except for a decent appearance, you're not worthy of my son at all. She didn't like me. I knew it from the very beginning. She thought I was too thin, that I was an orphan, that I had a hard life growing up depending on others, and even said that I would bring bad luck to her son. But if I could choose, I would also like to grow up in a complete family, being pampered by my father and loved by my mother since childhood. But I couldn't. I had no right to choose. Seeing that his mother had softened her tone, Leo thought that things had finally taken a turn for the better. He immediately pulled me to sit on the sofa. But what Leo's mother said next shocked us both. Our Leo family has only one male heir in 3 generations. Now that both of you are pregnant with Leo's children, I have an idea. Why don't you both give birth? Whoever gives birth to a boy will be recognized as our daughter-in-law. Leo's mother sat on the sofa, looking at us with a superior attitude, like an empress choosing her concubines. Mom, how could you say that? Leo was shocked. I suddenly felt like a joke. Someone had advised me long ago that I shouldn't persist in a love that wasn't recognized by my parents. I had always thought that Leo and I were an exception. But I didn't expect. Forget it. I brought all this on myself today. I didn't say anything. I silently got up, picked up my bag and walked towards the door. Jocelyn, where are you going? Leo grabbed me again. I didn't look at him. I lifted my foot and stomped hard on his instep. Ah! Leo cried out in pain, and his hand immediately loosened. I quickly opened the door and rushed down the stairs as if fleeing. I was still glad in my heart that fortunately I hadn't changed my shoes. Those leather shoes had heels, and stomping down like that should have been painful. Did it hurt? Jocelyn. Leo chased after me from behind. He grabbed my hand again. Jocelyn, I don't agree to break up. I don't agree. I apologize for what my mother just said. I'm sorry. Leo, let go. I'm so tired. I don't want to persist anymore. I didn't look at him, and my tone was very calm. No. Leo shook his head. Jocelyn, I love you. I really love you. He tried to hug me. I felt disgusted and pushed him away, squatting on the roadside and retching again. Don't come near me. I roared, I'm nauseous. The hurt on his face was so obvious. I won't come near you, but don't go, Jocelyn. Can you listen to me explain? It's been 5 years. I thought no one knew me better than you. Just this one sentence made my vision start to blur again. Do you remember that night? He continued. It was my birthday. You were busy at the company until midnight. I was waiting for you alone in the restaurant. I got drunk, and Tina sent me home. I was so drunk that I thought it was you all the time. Jocelyn, I'll handle the matter of the child. I'll give her a large sum of money. I'll go and apologize to her parents. Please give me time. I've already submitted my job application to DL. When the result comes out, I'll take you away. Leo. I interrupted the blueprint he was painting for me. You can give up Tina, and you can give up that unborn child. But what about your parents? They gave birth to you and raised you. Blood is thicker than water. Is it worth it for you to give up everything for me? It's worth it. Jocelyn, we've known each other for 7 years. Don't you know my feelings for you? Give me time. I'll definitely convince them. If I really can't, I'll choose you. I'll choose you, Jocelyn. He started to cry as he said this. Jocelyn, we've had this relationship for so many years. We've gone through all kinds of hardships. We're just one step away from getting married. We already have our own child. Are you really going to give up? Can you bear to do that? Could I bear to do that? I reached out and touched my lower abdomen, and tears streamed down my face. I couldn't bear to. During the toughest times, the two of us lived in a rented room of less than 10 square meters, living on instant noodles every night. Because he was determined to be with me, he had a falling out with his family and his financial sources were cut off. At that time, we had just graduated. We didn't have a job yet and were burdened with huge debts. He could only work as a food deliveryman, exposed to the sun and rain every day. With great difficulty, he earned the first sum of money from the orders he received, but he used it to buy my favorite fruits. He didn't eat any of those fruits, saying that he wasn't hungry. Then, I saw him get up quietly in the middle of the night to make instant noodles to eat. I ate instant noodles with him, and we both laughed like fools. At that time, I really thought that as long as I could be with him, it didn't matter if I ate instant noodles for the rest of my life. When I was 5 years old, my parents were getting a divorce and it went to court. Neither of them wanted to take me. Finally, the court forcibly awarded me to my mother and ordered my father to pay alimony. But my father didn't pay, so my mother left me at my uncle's house. Since childhood, I had been living under someone else's roof. No one loved me, no one cared about me. When there was something delicious, it was never my turn. No one had ever been like Leo to me. He didn't dislike that I was from the countryside, nor did he dislike my withdrawn personality. He chased me for 2 years, trying every way to make me happy every day. He said, Jocelyn, I've never seen a girl quieter than you. You should be happy. You look so beautiful when you smile. He was like a sudden beam of light in my life. After having him, I began to feel that there was hope in life and started looking forward to every tomorrow. But this beam of light didn't belong to me alone. Leo, I looked at him seriously and said, if our being together makes many people unhappy and only we ourselves are happy, why don't we just give up? The pain in my lower abdomen was getting more and more obvious, accompanied by dizziness and nausea. I just wanted to leave here quickly. No. Leo shook his head. I won't give up, Jocelyn. Just like before, you just focus on your own things, and leave the rest to me to handle. In the past 20-some years, you've been unhappy enough. In the days to come, I just want you to be happy. What beautiful words. But my reason told me that they were just nice to hear. I saw Tina chasing after us from behind. She reached out and grabbed Leo's sleeve, her big eyes filled with tears. Brother Leo, don't you want our baby anymore? I'm sorry. Leo lowered his head and didn't look at her. I can't be sorry to Jocelyn. I'll make it up to you. I don't want any compensation. She shook her head and interrupted him. Then she took out a fruit knife from her pocket. Brother Leo, you know how much I love you. You can't abandon us. With that, she raised the fruit knife and slashed it down on herself without hesitation. I saw a cut on her white down jacket, revealing a deep wound that almost reached the bone. The down feathers flew all over the place, and her clothes were instantly stained red with blood. She slashed her arm hard. What are you doing? Leo was startled and reached out to grab the knife from her. Give me the knife. But she didn't. Instead, she had a bright smile on her face. You do care about me, right? Brother Leo, I knew you couldn't let me go. Come home with me, okay? Come home with me. Tina, don't be impulsive. I'll call your parents right now. I'll ask them to come and pick you up. You need to go to the hospital to have the wound on your hand bandaged. I don't want to go to the hospital. Brother Leo, I only want you. She pressed the blade against her neck, a look of determination in her eyes. Otherwise, I'll die here today, and it'll be 2 lives lost. Don't be impulsive. Leo froze in place, not daring to move. Brother Leo, come home with me. She applied more force with her hand, and a small bloody cut appeared on her neck. But she seemed to feel no pain. Will you come home with me? Or will you watch me die here? You choose. She was applying more and more force. The red blood, the white snow, and the innocent eyes showing a determined fierceness. The strong contrast made me dizzy. I'll take you home. I'll take you home. Finally, Leo gave in. He hurriedly helped her up and still didn't forget to look back at me. Jocelyn, go back first. Wait for me. Was there any point in waiting for me? The pain in my lower abdomen was getting more and more obvious. I dialed 120. Pull your pants down a bit more. Relax your legs. Relax. Don't be nervous. On the operating table, the elderly female doctor was holding cold instruments towards me. The baby was gone. Maybe it sensed that I didn't want it, so it left on its own. But it wasn't completely gone. The doctor was helping me with the dilation and curettage. It really hurt. I bit my lip tightly with my teeth, trying hard not to cry out. It snowed heavily that day. I experienced the coldest winter in my life. The baby was gone. It felt like I had lost half of my life too. During the half an hour of observation in the lounge, my teeth were chattering from the cold. A week later, I went to handle the discharge procedures. The hospital director prescribed 3 big bags of traditional Chinese medicine for me. He also very responsibly wrote down quite a few precautions for me. His handwriting was very beautiful, flowing and flamboyant, but it was so beautiful that I couldn't recognize a single word. Can't recognize? The hospital director asked me. I nodded and then shook my head. He took out his phone and pulled up his QR code. Add me. I'll send you the precautions by voice message. I tightened my grip on my phone. No, it's okay. The medicine he prescribed was really bitter. I was going to throw it away directly when I got back. Don't forget that I saved your life. I have to be responsible to the end. He took my phone and forcibly added me as a friend. I glanced at the nameplate on his desk. Hospital Director, Ryan. It was the same name as my high school deskmate. Ryan was a very responsible doctor, although he was young. As soon as we became friends, he sent a long string of voice messages. I listened to them while walking towards home. Just as I reached the stairwell, I saw Leo curled up like a dog at the door, covered with snowflakes. Jocelyn, are you back? He immediately stood up when he heard the footsteps, and the snowflakes on him fell to the ground. I hadn't seen him for a week. He seemed to have gotten darker, thinner, with a sallow complexion, a scruffy beard, and sunken eye sockets. Jocelyn, where did you go? I've been looking for you these days. Do you know how worried I was? He walked over and wanted to hold my hand. I gently dodged it. He froze in place, looking at his hand and then at me. Jocelyn, we've already broken up. I didn't agree. The baby is gone. I took out the operation sheet. Our future is gone too. Please don't disturb my life anymore. Thank you. He froze in place and didn't move for a long while. I rummaged through my bag for the keys, opened the door and walked in. It wasn't until the door slammed shut that he seemed to wake up from a dream and started pounding on my door frantically. Jocelyn, Jocelyn, I couldn't hear clearly what else he was saying. There was a thick door between us. Leo took sleeping pills. 2 months after I left him, he was lying unconscious in the hospital, already emaciated, but it was still Tina who was accompanying him. She was wearing maternity clothes, her head drooping, and she no longer had the former vivacity. Jocelyn, please help me persuade Leo. He won't listen to anyone now. Only you can save him. Only you can save him. Leo's mother's voice started to choke up again. Why is it you? Only then did Tina realize that it was me who had come in. Her eyes were bloodshot as she lunged at me out of control. Slut, how dare you come here? Look what you've done to brother Leo. Get out. Get out. Leo's mother tried desperately to stop her. Tina, calm down. I asked Jocelyn to come here. I asked her to come. Tina didn't listen at all. She threw everything within her reach at me. She stared at me viciously, shouting continuously, Slut, I'll kill you. I'll kill you. The ward was in chaos. Then there was a dull thud. Leo rolled off the hospital bed. Jocelyn, is it really you? His emaciated face was full of disbelief as he struggled to crawl over. But he was full of tubes, and every step he took made the instruments beep. Finally, the doctor was alerted. It was the hospital director, Ryan. He drove Tina and Leo's mother out together and told me that the patient needed enough rest to maintain his strength and that I could stay for at most half an hour. Jocelyn, is it really you? Am I not dreaming? You came to see me. You really came. Leo held my hand tightly, afraid that I would disappear in the next second. Why are you so stupid? I looked at him, and my nose couldn't help but feel a bit sour. I couldn't find you, Jocelyn. His voice was horribly hoarse. They were arguing in my ears every day, not letting me go to find you. Jocelyn, where did you go these days? Where did you go? I couldn't bear to look at him anymore. I glanced around. The ward was decorated very warmly, and there were quite a few baby posters on the wall. I had heard before that looking at beautiful babies more when you're pregnant would make the baby you give birth to look beautiful too. I closed my eyes and then opened them again. My eyes were clear. It's been almost 4 months. I looked outside the door. In a few more months, you'll be a father. Leo's expression froze. He looked at me and shook his head but couldn't say a word. Leo, we're over. I said seriously. No. He shook his head. I looked at his fair and clean face, but for a moment, I really couldn't recall when I had seen him before. Dean Ryan, have you mistaken me for someone else? Just consider that I've made a mistake. Suddenly, he got angry and walked away, swinging his hands. I didn't think much about it either. I took out my phone to hail a taxi back to Shenzhen. I don't know if it was because of the rain, but I just couldn't get a taxi. I had to chair a meeting early tomorrow morning. Just when I didn't know what to do, Ryan showed up in front of me again, driving his car. Get in the car. No, thanks. I'm going back to Shenzhen. I live in Shenzhen. It's on my way. I looked at him with his lips tightly pursed, looking as if I owed him 8 million. Subconsciously, I shook my head. I'd better hail a taxi by myself. Jocelyn, you've been trying to hail a taxi for half an hour. Has any taxi come? He raised his voice, looking at me as if he wanted to devour me. This guy has such a bad temper. I had no choice but to get in the car reluctantly. Thank you, Dean Ryan. I thanked him politely. He ignored me. I felt a bit embarrassed and pretended to be asleep, leaning on the seat. I was thinking that once I got back to Shenzhen, I'd transfer the taxi fare to his phone immediately. He has a bad temper and always looks fierce. I'd better keep my distance from him. As a result, the car rear-ended another on the way. My head suddenly jerked forward, knocking down a stack of files that were fixed on the passenger seat. Are you okay? Ryan looked nervous. I touched the bump on my forehead and shook my head. I'm fine. You go and check the car. He went to negotiate with the driver behind us, and I helped him pick up those files. There was a photo interspersed with the files, which looked a bit familiar. I picked it up to have a look. Isn't this the photo of me and my desk mate in high school? Why does he have this photo? Just as I was wondering, Ryan had already come back. Dean Ryan, do you know Ryan? I held up the photo and asked him. As soon as I finished speaking, I was stunned myself. Ryan, isn't that his name? Sure enough, Ryan looked at me as if I were an idiot. Jocelyn, it's been 10 years. Not only have you not grown taller, but your brain has also regressed. Huh? My eyes swept back and forth between Ryan and the photo in my hand, and I suddenly realized, are you Ryan? Ryan, my desk mate in high school. He used to be thin and small, with a face full of freckles, and he always stammered when talking to people. So he was nicknamed Ryan by his classmates. He was always bullied, although I used to be a target of bullying too. Because my family was not well off, I had been living at my uncle's house since childhood. I didn't have enough to eat, and I wore the old clothes left by my cousins. They laughed at me behind my back, saying that I looked neither male nor female. But later, I learned to fight back. From primary school to junior high school, I had been enduring it. When I was in high school, it was as if I suddenly had an epiphany and stopped taking things lying down. If someone cursed at me, I'd hit them back. If someone hit me, I'd hit them back even harder. The timid are afraid of the bold, and the bold are afraid of the desperate. Gradually, no one dared to bully me anymore, and I became better and better at fighting, but I had always been alone, coming and going by myself. Until I met Ryan. He transferred to our class in senior 3 and sat next to me. Because of his appearance, he became the new target of bullying by our classmates. But Ryan was my desk mate. Every time he was bullied, I couldn't study well either. I needed to study. Only the college entrance examination could change my fate. I endured it a few times, but finally, I couldn't bear it anymore and hit back hard for him. I told him, if someone hits you, hit them back even harder. Because only when you are tough yourself will you not be bullied. He nodded blankly at me, but his face behind the black-rimmed glasses slowly turned red. From then on, he became my little follower. We studied together and fought together. He wanted to go abroad because his mother worked abroad. I wanted to leave this place and didn't want to live under someone else's roof anymore. Studying became our only way out, but the day before the college entrance examination, he suddenly disappeared. Later, I heard from other classmates that his mother had come back and taken him abroad in advance. He didn't even have time to take the college entrance examination. He just disappeared from my life like that. Ryan, where did the freckles on your face go? Didn't you used to have curly hair? Why is it straight now? Also, you used to be shorter than me. Why are you so tall now? Did you go abroad for plastic surgery? How much did it cost with such a big change? It's no wonder I didn't recognize him. Even though our names were the same, I didn't connect the dots. His changes were really too big. Jocelyn, don't forget what I do now. I think you're the one who needs plastic surgery, including your brain. Ryan was not in a good mood. I still couldn't believe it. Are you saying it's because of the traditional Chinese medicine conditioning? The change is really too big. You're no different. He looked at the red mark on my face. The old you wouldn't have just stood there and taken a beating. I subconsciously touched my still aching left cheek. That was where Tina hit me in the afternoon. I didn't want to come to the hospital at first. It was Leo's mother who said that as long as I persuaded Leo not to do anything stupid again, all my debts to the Leo family could be wiped out. Yes, I owed the Leo family. If it weren't for that incident, I think I might still be the same Jocelyn who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and thought that fighting could solve all problems. When did you come back? Why didn't you contact me? I changed the topic. As soon as I thought that he was my deskmate Ryan, the original sense of fear I had for him suddenly disappeared, and the distance between us was suddenly much closer. He started to tell me about his experiences in the past few years. He did go abroad, but soon came back. He went to a relatively distant medical university, studied there for 7 years, and only started his business in D.C. in the last 2 years. When he finished and asked me how I had been in these years, I was speechless. In my 10 years, it seemed that the only thing I could talk about was Leo. But now, I couldn't even bring myself to mention him. I'm still the same. Went to school, got a job. I just changed jobs recently. I had to steer the topic towards work. When Ryan sent me to the entrance of my community, he took out a few bags of traditional Chinese medicine from the trunk. I know you didn't drink those medicines. Your body is still very weak. These medicines are specially prepared for you by me. Drinking them will only do you good. How could an old classmate give someone medicine when they meet again? He had already driven away. In the following days, Ryan would tell me on WeChat every day to take the medicine on time. But I had no experience in boiling traditional Chinese medicine. Either it was too thick, or it was too dry, and a few times it was even burned. When Ryan heard about it, without saying a word, he carried his earthenware pot and came into my house. "I'll teach you." He taught me how to boil the medicine, how to add water, and how to drink it to reduce the bitterness. I looked at his face and kept asking him how he took care of his skin. How did those freckles disappear just like that? I'd better keep my distance from him. As a result, the car rear-ended another on the way. My head suddenly jerked forward, knocking down a stack of files that were fixed on the passenger seat. "Are you okay?" Ryan looked nervous. I touched the bump on my forehead and shook my head. "I'm fine. You go and check the car." He went to negotiate with the driver behind us, and I helped him pick up those files. There was a photo intermingled with the files, which looked a bit familiar. I picked it up to have a look. "Isn't this the photo of me and my desk mate in high school? Why does he have this photo?" Just as I was wondering, Ryan had already come back. "Dean Ryan, do you know Ryan?" I held up the photo and asked him. As soon as I finished speaking, I was stunned myself. "Ryan, isn't that his name?" Sure enough, Ryan looked at me as if I were an idiot. "Jocelyn, it's been 10 years. Not only have you not grown taller, but your brain has also regressed." Huh? My eyes swept back and forth between Ryan and the photo in my hand, and I suddenly realized. "Are you Ryan?" "Ryan, my desk mate in high school. He used to be thin and small, with a face full of freckles, and he always stammered when talking to people. So he was nicknamed Ryan by his classmates. He was always bullied. Although I used to be a target of bullying too. Because my family was not well off, I had been living at my uncle's house since childhood. I didn't have enough to eat, and I wore the old clothes left by my cousins. They laughed at me behind my back, saying that I looked neither male nor female. But later, I learned to fight back. From primary school to junior high school, I had been enduring it. When I was in high school, it was as if I suddenly had an epiphany and stopped taking things lying down. If someone cursed at me, I'd hit them back. If someone hit me, I'd hit them back even harder. The timid are afraid of the bold, and the bold are afraid of the desperate. Gradually, no one dared to bully me anymore, and I became better and better at fighting, but I had always been alone, coming and going by myself. Until I met Ryan. He transferred to our class in Senior 3 and sat next to me. Because of his appearance, he became the new target of bullying by our classmates. But Ryan was my desk mate. Every time he was bullied, I couldn't study well either. I needed to study. Only the college entrance examination could change my fate. I endured it a few times, but finally, I couldn't bear it anymore and hit back hard for him. I told him. If someone hits you, hit them back even harder. Because only when you are tough yourself will you not be bullied. He nodded blankly at me, but his face behind the black-rimmed glasses slowly turned red. From then on, he became my little follower. We studied together and fought together. He wanted to go abroad because his mother worked abroad. I wanted to leave this place and didn't want to live under someone else's roof anymore. Studying became our only way out. But the day before the college entrance examination, he suddenly disappeared. Later, I heard from other classmates that his mother had come back and taken him abroad in advance. He didn't even have time to take the college entrance examination. He just disappeared from my life like that. "Ryan, where did the freckles on your face go? Didn't you used to have curly hair? Why is it straight now? Also, you used to be shorter than me. Why are you so tall now? Did you go abroad for plastic surgery? How much did it cost with such a big change?" It's no wonder I didn't recognize him. Even though our names were the same, I didn't connect the dots. His changes were really too big. "Jocelyn, don't forget what I do now. I think you're the one who needs plastic surgery, including your brain." Ryan was not in a good mood. I still couldn't believe it. Are you saying it's because of the traditional Chinese medicine conditioning? The change is really too big. You're no different. He looked at the red mark on my face. The old you wouldn't have just stood there and taken a beating. I subconsciously touched my still aching left cheek. That was where Tina hit me in the afternoon. I didn't want to come to the hospital at first. It was Leo's mother who said that as long as I persuaded Leo not to do anything stupid again, all my debts to the Leo family could be wiped out. Yes, I owed the Leo family. If it weren't for that incident, I think I might still be the same Jocelyn who didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth and thought that fighting could solve all problems. When did you come back? Why didn't you contact me? I changed the topic. As soon as I thought that he was my deskmate Ryan, the original sense of fear I had for him suddenly disappeared, and the distance between us was suddenly much closer. He started to tell me about his experiences in the past few years. He did go abroad, but soon came back. He went to a relatively distant medical university, studied there for 7 years, and only started his business in D-City in the last 2 years. When he finished and asked me how I had been in these years, I was speechless. In my 10 years, it seemed that the only thing I could talk about was Leo. But now, I couldn't even bring myself to mention him. I'm still the same. Went to school, got a job. I just changed jobs recently. I had to steer the topic towards work. When Ryan sent me to the entrance of my community, he took out a few bags of traditional Chinese medicine from the trunk. I know you didn't drink those medicines. Your body is still very weak. These medicines are specially prepared for you by me. Drinking them will only do you good. How could an old classmate give someone medicine when they meet again? He had already driven away. In the following days, Ryan would tell me on WeChat every day to take the medicine on time. But I had no experience in boiling traditional Chinese medicine. Either it was too thick, or it was too dry, and a few times it was even burned. When Ryan heard about it, without saying a word, he carried his earthenware pot and came into my house. I'll teach you. He taught me how to boil the medicine, how to add water, and how to drink it to reduce the bitterness. I looked at his face and kept asking him how he took care of his skin. How did those freckles disappear just like that? He pointed at the black and thick traditional Chinese medicine in the bowl. Thanks to this. I'd better forget about it then. On Monday, when I went back to work in the company, because of the good performance of our team, I got a promotion. The management also recruited a few new employees specifically for me and asked me to train them well. Leo was among those new employees. I hadn't seen him for a few months. He seemed to have changed, but also seemed not to have. He was still thin, but he was much more composed as a whole. There was an indescribable sense of restraint. When he looked at me, there was still a glimmer in his eyes, but he was always respectful. DL was the company he had wanted to enter since graduation. To avoid embarrassment, I handed him over to a relatively mature old employee in the team. Except for the regular team meetings and reports, we basically had no interaction at other times. But even so, Tina still came to find me. That day, our whole team was working overtime in the conference room, summarizing the work of last week. Tina suddenly burst in. She was pregnant with a big belly and just stood at the door of the conference room, looking at us. Leo, who was reporting the work, was startled and quickly got up and walked over. Why are you here? We'll talk about it when you go back. He tried to pull her out. She refused to go and opened the thermos box in her hand on her own. I know you're working overtime hard, so I specially cooked yam and pork rib soup for you. Drink it while it's hot. Go out first. We're still in a meeting. Leo lowered his voice. Tina stopped pouring the soup and looked around. Finally, her eyes fell on me. Hello, you're Leo's boss, right? I'm his wife, Tina. She came up to me, smiling and stretching out her hand. I looked at the hidden turmoil in her cloudy eyes and didn't quite understand what she was up to, so I didn't reach out my hand. It's normal for Manager Jocelyn to look down on me, a housewife. She withdrew her hand self-deprecatingly and then looked at the colleagues around. Leo is working here and causing trouble for all of you. I've also brought some coffee for all the colleagues. Everyone, drink it while it's hot. The delivery man brought in the coffee, and she opened it herself and handed it out one by one. The colleagues all praised her highly, saying how Leo had found such a good wife who was still so concerned about his work even when pregnant. I just felt a chill in my heart. Sure enough, after that day, Tina came to the company to find Leo for various reasons, bringing him meals, picking him up from work. Later, she even sat directly next to his desk and worked with him. Leo's work ability obviously declined, and he often made some common sense mistakes. I found the old employee who was in charge of him and asked him to give Leo a few days off to handle the family matters before coming back to work. That afternoon, Tina came to my office. "Why did you let Leo take a vacation? I'm pregnant now, and all the family expenses depend on him alone. You're not the boss. Why didn't you let him work?" I slammed my laptop shut with force. "Because you've already seriously affected the work discipline of our department. I don't need him here until he sorts out his family matters." "Jocelyn, what do you mean?" Her expression changed instantly. "Do you think I'm getting in your way here? How malicious of you. He's my husband now, and you." "Tina, what are you doing? Come back with me quickly." Leo rushed over in a hurry and dragged her away. The next day, Leo came to work alone, but there were 3 scratch marks on his face. Those colleagues who had originally envied him all shut their mouths and put on sympathetic looks instead. While I felt a sense of relief in my heart, I also had a faint uneasiness. Sure enough, I bumped into Tina at the company entrance after work. She was holding a thick stack of papers in her hand, on which were printed the group photos of Leo and me when we were together before, as well as some of our previous WeChat chat records. She handed out a paper to everyone she saw, saying that I was seducing her husband, crying with snot and tears while pregnant. I stood behind the glass door of the company, and my scalp began to tingle slowly. I couldn't move my feet even half a step. "Tina, what are you doing? Hurry up and come home with me." Leo grabbed her and tried to drag her away. "I won't go, I won't go." She sat on the ground, crying and shouting. "I'm going to let everyone see what kind of person Jocelyn is today. I'm 8 months pregnant and about to give birth, and she's still seducing my husband in the company." With a slap, Leo slapped her. She covered her face, looking at him in disbelief. "Brother Leo, you hit me? You hit me again because of her?" Leo looked at his hand as if he couldn't believe it either. He withdrew his hand tremblingly and softened his tone. "Tina, stop making a fuss. Let's go home and talk about it, okay?" Tina suddenly laughed. "Are you afraid that I'll hurt her? You're still in the same company and the same department as her. Leo, are you protecting her like this? Do you have a conscience? I'm carrying your child in my belly. Didn't you say you broke up with her? Is this how you broke up? Bullying a pregnant woman like me, you'll get what you deserve. I won't leave today. You must give me an explanation." With that, she simply sat down at the entrance. "Jocelyn, come out. You have the guts to steal someone's husband but not the guts to come out. What a coward you are." I stood inside the glass door, listening to her blabbering outside. Some colleagues who passed by recognized me. They pointed at me, whispering and murmuring. It was like going back to that day. I knew I should go out and face her, tear off Tina's disguise. But my feet seemed to have taken root. I couldn't move no matter what, and I felt cold all over. Since that incident happened, I've developed a psychological disorder. Whenever I'm in a crowded place, especially when facing other people's strange looks, I can't help but feel my scalp tingle, have difficulty breathing, and be unable to say a word. "Are you okay?" Ryan walked in without my noticing. He grasped my trembling fist tightly. "What's wrong with you, Jocelyn?" I looked at him, my teeth chattering, but still couldn't say a word. "Jocelyn? Jocelyn?" He noticed something was wrong with me and quickly helped me to sit on the sofa. Then he brought a glass of water. "Drink some water and calm down. I'll resign. I won't work here anymore." Leo's voice of compromise came from outside. He knelt down to Tina. "Tina, please stop making a fuss and come home with me." Finally, Tina left. The onlookers also gradually dispersed. I woke up from the numbness just now, took the water from Ryan's hand, and gulped down several mouthfuls. Are you okay, Jocelyn? Are you feeling unwell anywhere? Shall I take you to the hospital? Ryan asked. No, thanks. I shook my head, got up, and staggered out of the company. Ryan was with me all the way that day, escorting me from the company all the way home, but he didn't ask me anything. Leo resigned. But the rumors about me and him started to spread around the company. The papers Tina printed spread to every corner of DL. Every word was really mean. My boss talked to me, suggesting that I go home and rest for a while and come back to work after the storm passed. I didn't want to. If I took a vacation at this time, it would indirectly confirm that what Tina said was true. I'm not the third party. She is. The photos on the papers she printed were real, and the chat records were real too, but the time was fake. She singled out things from a few years ago, added fuel to the fire, and brought them up today. She has committed slander. You must sue her. Those papers are evidence. After hearing about this, Ryan grabbed me and was about to take me to the police station. I shook my head. She's pregnant. The law can't do much to her. She's pregnant, that's true. But she won't be pregnant forever. Ryan explained. After the baby is born, she'll still have to bear the responsibilities she should. Jocelyn, if you still want to continue working at DL, this matter must be properly resolved. I just shook my head. I knew the consequences of going to the police station. I still couldn't say a word. Tina would still be acquitted at that time. I can't go to the police station. I have a psychological disorder. Jocelyn, do you have any difficulties? Ryan noticed my abnormality. He talked about the scene he saw at the company entrance that day and also mentioned the scene of me being beaten at the hospital entrance last time. He said, "You didn't do anything wrong. Why have you been bearing it all silently?" I looked at him, took a deep breath, and finally spoke slowly. Ryan, do you believe it? I almost became a murderer once. When I was in college, there was a girl who always liked to pick on me. She was a famous bully in the school. Relying on her family's wealth, she often gave me trouble. One day, I was walking back to the dormitory as usual. She blocked my way halfway and forced me to go to the rooftop. She asked me to bark like a dog and even wanted to record a video of me. I refused, and she asked her followers behind her to beat me. I was beaten badly, so I picked up a broken brick on the rooftop and threw it at her with all my might. I was out of control, angry and furious. She was covered in blood from my hit, rolling back and forth on the ground holding her head. This incident alarmed many classmates. Because I was usually withdrawn and didn't have many friends, those classmates surrounded me, pointing at me and saying that I had killed someone and even called the police to arrest me. I was sent to the police station and was locked up there for a week. The school was also going to expel me. That week in the police station was the darkest time in my life. I had nightmares every day, either dreaming of being beaten by others or dreaming of beating others until they were bleeding. Finally, Leo asked around for help, got me out of the detention center, paid a large sum of money to the other party, and pleaded with the school, thus saving my student status. The money was what Leo asked from his family. He lied to his parents that it was for investment. Later, Leo's mother found out. She humiliated me severely and cut off all of Leo's financial sources. Although I later paid off all the debts with my own salary, my relationship with the Leo family never improved. That incident also left an indelible shadow on me. I developed a very serious psychological disorder. Besides getting sick easily in crowded places, I would also get sick in the police station. After listening to my whole story, Ryan was silent for a long time. After a long while, he finally raised his head, his eyes a bit red. You must have had a hard time during those days. I didn't answer. The fact that I could calmly tell him these things now means that those incidents don't have much impact on me anymore. Time is the best medicine. Except for the current situation of going to the police, I must overcome my psychological fear and go to the police station to explain the situation in order to sue Tina. No need to go to the police station. I know a lawyer friend. He might be able to help us, Ryan suggested. He took me to the law firm and told the lawyer the whole story on my behalf. He accompanied me throughout the process of evidence collection and prosecution. The judgment result came down quickly. Tina was found guilty of slander. However, since she is still pregnant, the judgment will only take effect after she gives birth and finishes the lactation period. I was still very happy. I took a photo of the judgment immediately and sent it to the company's large group. And I took the initiative to ask Ryan out for dinner to thank him for his help these days. We talked about the past and even had some drinks when we were in high spirits. On the way back, we staggered along, singing "You Who Sat Next to Me" at the desk. Will you remember tomorrow, the diary you wrote yesterday, Jocelyn? Leo's mother blocked my way with her bag. She looked at me staggering drunk and subconsciously covered her nose. Our Leo family is still your benefactor after all. Now you're actually going to send the daughter-in-law of the Leo family to prison. What on earth are you thinking? I looked at this old woman and thought she looked a bit familiar, but her appearance wasn't very likable. So I pulled Ryan and walked around her to continue on our way. You always said that graduation was far away, but in a blink of an eye, we all went our separate ways. She followed a few steps and blocked my way again. Jocelyn, I'm not here to quarrel with you either. Forgive others when you can. For the sake of your past relationship with Leo, write a letter of understanding and let Tina go. I thought this old woman was really annoying, always nagging in front of me and not letting me go. I took off my leather shoes and threw them at her face. Fuck off. Get out of here. Whoever wants to forgive can forgive. I don't know you. If you come and nag in front of me again, I'll beat you up every time I see you. Crazy, crazy, drunk lunatic, drunk lunatic. She was scared away by me. Ryan clapped his hands beside me and praised, "This is the Jocelyn I know." Only then did I realize that he had been watching all the time and didn't even say a word to help me. What kind of deskmate is this? I was so angry that I raised my fist to settle the score with him. Do you want to bully me too? Are you laughing at me? You even clapped your hands. I'll beat you to death. I kept patting his head with my hand. Under such great pressure, he sent me home, changed my shoes for me, and then helped me to bed to rest. As a result, we both took a tumble when getting into bed. Do you want to bully me too? I looked at his face so close to mine and said aggrievedly. May I? His voice was a bit hoarse. No. I shook my head seriously, then his kisses fell on me densely. I must have had too much to drink. Yes, I had too much to drink. The next day, I woke up in my own room. The place was in a mess all around, and Ryan was nowhere to be seen already. I reached out and rubbed my face. I'm really getting old. Having a few drinks and I even had a spring dream. The key point is that the male lead in the dream was someone I had always regarded as a good brother. We're so familiar. How could I have done that? This is really improper. TSK. After getting dressed and opening the door, Ryan was standing at the door bare-chested. Up already? I've prepared breakfast already. I froze on the spot. The male lead in the dream suddenly appeared in reality, and he was naked. Subconsciously, I looked down. There was a pink Hello Kitty bath towel tied around his waist. That was my bath towel. I was so scared that I slammed the door shut with a bang and hid back inside. What should I do? Everything that happened last night was not a dream at all. How should I face him? Should I pretend to have amnesia or knock him out? This is so embarrassing. If only I could disappear on the spot. Who will come to save me? No one can save me. I have to pay for the debts I've created myself. Are you okay, Jocelyn? Are you feeling unwell anywhere? Ryan was still knocking on the door outside. I felt uncomfortable all over my body, so I had to hide in the room like a coward. Ryan was so worried outside that he almost broke down the door. Only then did I summon up the courage to go out. I just went to the toilet. My stomach seems a bit uncomfortable. I touched my stomach and said a bit embarrassedly. There's no toilet in the room. The toilet is outside. Ryan pointed to the bathroom next to it. I felt even more embarrassed and couldn't help but raise my voice. I say there's a toilet, so there is. This is my house. He seemed to be startled by my suddenly loud voice and went to the kitchen to bring out the breakfast he had prepared with a disappointed look. There was milk, bread, eggs, and bacon, oats. There were quite a few kinds. He must have emptied my fridge. As I was eating, I was calculating in my mind how to cover up the mistake last night without anyone noticing. After breakfast, come with me to a place. Before I could think of an excuse, he had already made plans for me. Where to? I know a pretty good psychologist. Maybe it will be helpful for your psychological disorder. He replied. You? I glanced at him. His bare upper body was really eye-catching. I swallowed quietly. Could you please put on your clothes? It doesn't look good like this. What a strange habit this person has. Eating without clothes on. TSK. He looked innocent. You tore my clothes. This? What shocking words. Cough, cough, cough. A piece of bread got stuck in my throat, neither going up nor down. Eat slowly. Are you that hungry? Drink some water first. He handed me a glass of water. After drinking the water, I didn't want to continue the previous topic anymore, so I stood up. I'm done eating. Just give me the doctor's address. I'll go there by myself. He also stood up. I'll go with you. I blatantly looked at his 8-pack abs, indicating that he couldn't go out like this. Then the doorbell rang. His assistant had brought his clothes over. After he changed into his clothes and looked dashing, I couldn't refuse him anymore, so I went to the psychologist with him. The psychologist was a plump middle-aged woman. She liked to laugh, and her voice when speaking had the soft and gentle tone characteristic of the Jiangnan region, which was indescribably pleasant to listen to. She showed me some pictures while guiding me to talk. There were only the two of us in the office. Listening to her soft voice, I slowly told her everything. Starting from being abandoned by my parents when I was a child, then being bullied at school, then the accidental injury in college, and finally the relationship with Leo. After saying all these, I felt a relaxation I had never experienced before. Unconsciously, I actually fell asleep. When I woke up again, it was already completely dark outside. Ryan was the only one sitting by my bedside. Where's the doctor? I asked. She's off work. Ryan helped me up. I slept for quite a long time. I scratched my head embarrassedly. Sorry for delaying your business. I hadn't slept so comfortably for a long time. After waking up, I felt completely refreshed, as if I had been reborn. I'm fine. The doctor said you cooperated well with the treatment. It's not a big problem. She prescribed some medicine. I'll supervise you to take it when we get back. After taking it for one course of treatment and going out for more walks to breathe some fresh air, you should be almost recovered after one course of treatment. Ryan picked up the bag beside him and accompanied me out of the hospital. Thank you. After walking out of the hospital gate, I took the bag from his hand. I've already delayed you for long enough. I can go back by myself. You can go and do your things if you have something to do. But he didn't give it to me. Nothing is more important than you. Let's go. I stood still. He looked back at me and sighed softly. Jocelyn, be obedient. Last night's thing. I finally summoned up the courage. We were both drunk. Let's just pretend it never happened. I was afraid that he was helping me because he felt guilty about it. I wasn't drunk. He took a step forward and looked at me, with emotions in his eyes that I couldn't understand. Jocelyn, I was always sober. Do you know that I've been waiting for you all these years? Is this a confession? I don't know. He didn't wait for my answer either. He just pulled me into the car like he did when he added me on WeChat for the first time, forcibly entering my life. He accompanied me every day, supervised me to take medicine, accompanied me to relax, and even took me back to my hometown. The air in my hometown was very nice. I followed Ryan, going up the mountain to pick mushrooms and down the river to catch fish with him. Time passed quickly. By the time I went back to work at DL after the long vacation, it was already after the spring festival. I heard a big piece of news from my colleagues. Tina gave birth to a black baby in the hospital. The baby had long arms and legs, like an unevolved gorilla. Leo's mother fainted on the spot. The Leo family immediately did a paternity test, and the baby was indeed not Leo's. Seeing that the matter was exposed, Tina actually wanted to kill the baby brutally. Fortunately, she was discovered by the nurses in the hospital, and the baby was saved. She was also sent to prison in advance. After sending the baby to the welfare home, Leo came to look for me at DL. My colleagues said I was on vacation, so he left. Do you know how that baby came about? My colleague asked me when chatting about the gossip. I shook my head. I heard that she got pregnant from fooling around in a bar before. She didn't even know who the baby's biological father was, so she pinned it on Leo. I thought of that snowy day when Tina forced Leo to go home with her by threatening to kill herself. The passionate love in her eyes at that time. So, there was such a love too. If it wasn't for the obvious characteristics of the baby at birth, the Leo family would still be in the dark. It's just pitiful for Leo. I heard that he used to have a very loving girlfriend, but his parents forcibly broke them up. My colleague shook his head and left. I opened my computer and started a new day's work. When it was time to get off work, the receptionist said that an old lady was looking for me and had been waiting for a long time. It was Leo's mother. She thought I might know Leo's whereabouts and begged me with teary eyes to tell her. She was crying so sadly. Half of her hair had turned white, and her face was full of the marks of time. There was no longer the haughty style of a high-ranking official's wife as before. All there was a pitiful old lady who had lost her only son. I looked at her and shook my head. Sorry, I can't help you. Then, I called the security guards. She still wasn't reconciled. In the evening, she chased me to the place where I lived, wanting me to look for Leo with her. I held Ryan's hand and said calmly, "This is my fiancé. We're going to get married soon. Your son can't be found. You can go to the police station to file a case. We can't help you." Since then, Leo's mother never showed up again. 1 year later, I gave birth to a pair of lovely twin babies, a boy and a girl. On the day of the full moon banquet, I seemed to see a familiar figure among the many guests. He was very thin and tall. Looking at me and the babies from a distance, he was smiling with tears in his eyes, and then quickly disappeared into the crowd. "Dear, the banquet is about to start. Let's go." Ryan came over and took my hand. His other hand was pushing the stroller. The twin brother and sister in the stroller had already fallen asleep. Our family of 4 entered the banquet hall, and warm applause rang out in the hall. Tonight, it was doomed to be a very beautiful night.